What occurs when the bonds that formerly kept a family intact gradually start to disintegrate? It didn't used to be this way. Years ago, the Browns were one, perhaps not conventionally, but under one banner. One man, four wives, a household of children, and a life lived on their terms, despite any criticism. They didn't only share rooms, everything, feelings, choices, money, dreams, even pain. Never easy, but theirs. But time has a way of altering things. Humans do change. And when love starts to feel one way, when sacrifices fall unnoticed, even the most formidable unions can become frayed. That's exactly what occurred behind the shut doors of the Brown home. At its heart is Kody, the husband, the father, the man who used to bear the burden of an expanding, mixed-up family. And alongside him, more than ever before, is Robyn, the final wife to arrive, but perhaps the one who changed everything. Now envision this. 3 women, all of them once deeply involved with Kody, quietly packing away their hopes, their memories, and their pain. And leaving. Not in anger, not in haste, but in a resolute choice to take back their peace. Christine, Janelle, and Meri, each of them reached her breaking point, each for her own reasons, and none of it overnight. Years of gradual changes, whispered uncertainties, and increasing distance before the burden of it all proved too great. Have you ever lingered longer than you should have in a situation? Hoping it might improve? Waiting for someone to realize your worth again? Perhaps that's why this story resonates with so many of us. Because beneath it all, it's not about celebrity gossip or reality TV. It's about women deciding they don't have to be an afterthought anymore. It's about the inner strength it takes to stand up and say, "This isn't working for me anymore." And for those who are left behind, Kody and Robyn, for example, it's a wake-up call. A moment to look back. A moment to wonder, where did we go wrong? So what really drove these 3 women to finally walk away? What was the final straw? And how did a once unified family find themselves scattered, each trying to rebuild from the pieces? Pull up a chair. We're about to dive into the emotional unraveling of the Brown family, a story of shifting loyalties, tough choices, and the quiet strength it takes to choose yourself. Let's begin. Kody and Robyn. Turn to Meri for assistance, but she holds firm. Prior to us getting into it, don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell icon so you never miss a post. Now let's discuss a tale that has people abuzz, particularly those who've been keeping up with the sister wives phenomenon over the years. In any given family, relationships are complicated. But polygamous families like the Browns make them even more complicated, while emotions, expectations, and loyalties tend to pull in different directions. Kody Brown and his wife Robyn are currently facing a very serious financial crisis, and in their hour of need, they've approached Meri, Kody's first wife, hoping she might be able to help them out. But here's the twist. Meri's made it very clear. She's not giving money. Period. It's a hard line, and one that's creating some serious waves in an already unstable family situation. Let's take a step back and review how we got to this place. A family with a complicated history. Kody Brown is the patriarch of a big polygamous family who've been in the spotlight for years, courtesy of sister wives. He's been married to Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn. Each romance has had its highs and lows, some more sensational than others. Robyn, Kody's latest and lawfully acknowledged wife, has never been particularly close to him. That affinity, however, has, over the course of time, created palpable tension among the other wives. Meri, Kody's original wife, has experienced much in her marriage to him. Once intimately bound, Their passionate relationship has long since dissipated. Left is a sort of aloof respect, a tacit understanding, perhaps, but not much affection. Nevertheless, Meri has stayed in the family, maintaining her own separate area and, in more recent years, struggling to become independent. She's come a long way, personally and professionally. And one of the most important aspects of that growth? Being able to say no. Money troubles. Not the first time. Let's face it, financial issues have plagued the Brown clan for quite some time. Kody's earnings from the program, plus side businesses and entrepreneurial endeavors, have not always provided enough to keep things afloat. With as big of a family as his is comes considerable costs, and stress from putting it all together has frequently landed on unstable shoulders. Now, Kody and Robyn are apparently struggling with money again. And from what's been learned, the problems boil down to a combination of bad financial choices, pricey tastes, and stress of attempting to manage all the upkeep of the blended polygamous family. Kody and Robyn have been accustomed to living a bit on the high side. Large houses, high-ticket decisions, and a tendency to put their own comfort first, even when it has stretched the family finances to their limits. But now, with money in short supply, they're turning to outside their own residence for assistance, and that took them directly to Meri. Meri says no, and means it. It's not easy turning down someone you've shared a life with, especially in front of the whole world. But Meri's been through enough to know where she stands. She's drawn a boundary, and for her, this is about self-respect, not bitterness. Meri's refusal isn't cold, it's firm, and it's a statement about how far she's come. For years, she gave more than she got. But now, she's choosing herself, and truly, can we fault her? Meri draws the line with love, but no checkbook. As Kody and Robyn's financial woes intensified, they came to a point where they could no longer handle things by themselves. Desperate and with limited choices, they turned to a person they thought would be able to help them, Meri. Among all the wives, it may come as a surprise that they'd go to her. After all, their bond with Meri hasn't really been tight in recent years. But perhaps that's exactly why they turned to her. They probably hoped that Meri, being one of the elder and potentially more established members of their family, would be in a better position to provide some economic alleviation. And despite the distance, Meri had often played the role of the steady, supportive presence, someone who could be counted on when things got tough. So Kody and Robyn reached out. Their request wasn't casual. It came from a place of real urgency. They were hoping she'd understand, sympathize, and maybe step in with a helping hand. But what they received in return was not what they were expecting. Meri's clear-cut response: no. If you've followed Meri's journey, her answer wouldn't surprise you. She's always been independent, strong-willed, and determined to find her own way, especially after everything she's endured. Years ago, she held down Kody through thick and thin, providing emotional support, stability, and yes, monetary assistance when required. But all changed after Kody started disengaging from her romantically and emotionally. That real sense of rejection compelled Meri to take a long, hard look at where she was in the family and what she was putting in as opposed to what she was getting. And what she came to understand was painful, but clear. She had been contributing a lot more than she received in response. She'd supported the family discreetly, sacrificed financially, and invested in some of Kody's businesses. But increasingly, her contributions felt ignored, particularly as Robyn moved front and center in Kody's world. Not surprisingly, that made Meri feel on the sidelines and undervalued, So when Kody and Robyn approached asking for assistance, Meri wasn't seeing this as merely a financial ask, but as another time she was supposed to give, while the rest took. And this time, she said no. Not just about money, it's about boundaries. Meri wasn't cold in her refusal. She was thoughtful, resolute, and based on self-preservation. She has experienced more than her share of highs and lows emotionally, and she's reached the point where she's taking care of herself first. It wasn't all about dollars and dimes. It was about Meri guarding her future, her serenity, and her self-worth. She didn't flip out. She didn't take it personally. She just stood firm. In a statement, Meri said that she loved Robyn and Kody. She recognized their struggles, but she also let them know that she had her own financial burden to bear and that she couldn't jeopardize her own security in order to bail them out. After all these years of being the behind-the-scenes glue that kept things together, Meri is finally picking herself. And really, it's a strong thing to see. Kody and Robyn react, shock, hurt, and a harsh reality. Naturally, Kody and Robyn were both hurt and frustrated by Meri's decision. For Kody, it wasn't just about the money, it felt personal. As the head of the family, he'd long believed he could count on his wives during tough times, emotionally and financially. So when Meri declined to help, it struck a nerve. To him, it seemed like more than a no. It seemed like a rejection of his authority and the relationship they shared. Robyn, as well, didn't take it in stride. As the newest wife in the family, she'd gotten accustomed to a certain standing and privilege. And while her relationship with Meri has had its rough patches, she was still hopeful that in a moment of crisis, Meri would come through. But Meri's refusal and the firm boundary she set was a clear reminder. Not everyone in the family is willing to give, especially when they feel they've given enough already. Confronted with this fact, Kody and Robyn were forced to regroup. Meri wasn't going to reverse her decision, and the money they were hoping for wasn't available. That left them with some hard decisions. They'd have to find another source for help, and perhaps rethink how they lived their lives in the future. It was an eye-opener, one that revealed how difficult financial expectations can be in a big family. Who assists? When? And at what price? Bigger lessons about boundaries and growth. Meri's decision to say no wasn't just about a single moment. It symbolized something much bigger. It was about reclaiming her power and setting a healthy boundary. And in a family as complex and emotionally entangled as the Browns, that's no small feat. Yes, families do want to take care of each other. That's part of the miracle. But there is also a time when individual health must come first. For Meri, that time had apparently come. She wasn't doing it out of spite. She wasn't turning her back on them in rage. She was merely deciding to protect herself and her future. And after all those years of putting everyone else first, this was her moment to draw a line. And in drawing that line, she sent a clear signal. Respect must be reciprocal. Kody and Robyn, meanwhile, were left to deal with an uncomfortable reality. Relying too heavily on others, particularly in a tenuous family setup, can breed tension and resentment. Even families constructed of love and history have their boundaries. And when those boundaries are pushed one too many times, people begin backing away. This moment, though painful, could be a turning point. A chance for everyone in the family to reflect, grow, and rethink how they approach both relationships and responsibilities. A shift in the family's story. Kody and Robyn's request and Meri's firm refusal shine a light on something many families deal with, especially as they grow older and more complex: the balancing act between loyalty and self-preservation. Meri decided to stand on her own 2 feet, and that choice may have made a ripple of disappointment, but it also was a moment of understanding. She's not the same woman who quietly sacrifices anymore. She's a woman who knows her worth and isn't afraid to defend it. And Kody and Robyn? This could be the beginning of a greater realization that true support from family doesn't equal always agreeing. Sometimes it equals honoring the boundaries someone worked so hard to establish. Meanwhile, a new chapter unfolds. While this money standoff played out, the rest of the Brown clan wasn't idle. Janelle, Meri, and Christine, 3 of Kody's other wives, had started working on something more long-term: property, particularly along Coyote Pass property. A new beginning by Coyote Pass, independence, springs up. In a surprising but very symbolic gesture, 3 of Kody Brown's wives, Janelle, Meri, and Christine, have decided to buy a piece of land adjacent to the family's famous Coyote Pass estate. And although this may look like merely a real estate update, what is really going on here is something much more profound: growth on an individual level, shifting priorities, and the constantly evolving dynamics of the Brown family. In this part of their ongoing journey, we'll look at what this land purchase really means, why they're doing it, what it says about where the family stands today, and how it might shape their future. First, a quick refresher on Coyote Pass. Coyote Pass is not merely a piece of Arizona desert. It's been a big part of the Browns' saga. Years back, Kody and his 4 wives bought the land with one audacious plan in mind. They'd create a shared compound, with each wife having her own house, all in walking distance of one another. It was meant to be a means of remaining close, emotional and physical, yet leaving each wife room to breathe. A unified future based on togetherness, closeness, and commonalities. The acquisition was a milestone achievement. It demonstrated their devotion not only to the life of polygamy, but to themselves. But as with so many large aspirations, the journey to turning that dream into reality hasn't been smooth sailing. From financial pressure and changing priorities to internal conflict and logistical delays, Coyote Pass has developed slowly and filled with challenges. And yet, the property had continued to represent hope for the family's future, at least until recently. Now, with Janelle, Meri, and Christine opting to buy their own property close by, that dream is beginning to shape up differently. Why they're doing it: a shift toward self-reliance. This choice is a true turning point. Rather than continue waiting for the Coyote Pass fantasy to become a reality, these 3 women are taking the initiative themselves. The vision of living together like one big happy family was idealized in theory, but in reality, it's been difficult. Time, space, and personality differences have caused the original vision to feel increasingly unrealistic. By buying property close by, but independent of the shared compound, Janelle, Meri, and Christine are softly but firmly communicating a need for more independence. Kody used to call the shots on family matters for years. As the matriarch, he ran the show. But now, the wives are beginning to set their own agenda. For Janelle, this is a decision that seems to be coming from a pragmatic place. She's always been one of the most centered, even-tempered members of the family. She's demonstrated astounding patience and loyalty, but like anyone stepping into a new chapter of life, she's beginning to consider what she truly desires: more room, more authority, and perhaps a little bit of liberty. This new piece of property? Maybe it's her way of staking a claim, her own. A fresh start for Meri and Christine. Breaking free with purpose. Meri's choice to buy land near Coyote Pass speaks volumes, not just about real estate, but about reclaiming her independence. After years in a strained and often emotionally distant relationship with Kody, she's made it clear. She's no longer willing to sacrifice her own happiness just to fit into a family mold that no longer serves her. This isn't about breaking up. It's about creating her own life, on her own terms. In taking this next step, Meri is demonstrating that she's willing to put herself first. She's still with the family, yes, but now with more self and a clear sense of direction. It's a powerful move, particularly for someone who's spent so much time attempting to get balance in a relationship where her voice wasn't always heard. Christine, as well, is embracing change, and in a lot of ways, she's been at the forefront. Long one of the more vocal wives, Christine has been speaking out about her frustrations and the emotional burden of living within a polygamous framework. For her, purchasing land adjacent to Coyote Pass is a definite step towards freedom. Christine has long felt overlooked, lost in the shuffle of Kody's complicated family. Now, this land provides her with a place to call her own, with a reminder that she's no longer simply one of Kody's wives. She's her own individual with her own place, aspirations, and objectives. Coyote Pass, a complicated dream. The Coyote Pass vision was lovely in theory. A whole extended family, living together, each wife having her own house but bound together by common cause and proximity. But making it happen has been far from easy. The property, situated in the Arizona desert, was accompanied by more problems than the family probably anticipated. From construction delay and financial pressure to increasing family tensions, the vision of the compound has been gradually disintegrating. Now that Meri, Janelle, and Christine are opting to purchase land in close proximity, instead of waiting for Coyote Pass to be developed, the writing is on the wall. Though they're not walking away from the family completely, they're establishing a little space, physically and emotionally. By being close but not too close, they are able to keep up family ties without having to give up individual independence. It's a tenuous balance, and one which will probably resonate with many viewers. Staying close while still being able to find room to grow. Kody and Robyn. Mixed emotions. It's a change sure to evoke some mixed emotions, particularly for Kody. He's always dreamed of a big family compound where all of his wives would live together, side by side. That was based on his own need for closeness and shared mission. So having 3 of his wives decide to purchase land on their own, beyond his immediate control, could be perceived as a rejection of all that he envisioned for their future. It probably hurts, particularly where Meri is concerned. Theirs has been a tumultuous relationship for quite some time now, and her purchase of land may seem like one more indication that she's drawing away for good. The emotional distance is turning into physical distance. His reaction to Janelle and Christine's actions may be more tempered. He's had a more consistent relationship with both women, even though everything hasn't always worked. He might get where they're coming from on wanting independence, albeit not the way he initially envisioned. And then there's Robyn, Kody's closest and latest wife. Robyn's struggle. Unity slipping away. While Kody might be disappointed with the changing dynamics, Robyn's response is probably no less complex, if not even more complex. Over the years, Robyn has been a stalwart supporter of Kody's vision of one big family, all cohabiting side by side. She's usually been the one talking about being together, harmonious, and keeping the family tight. But now that Janelle, Meri, and Christine are splitting off and purchasing their own property outside Coyote Pass, that dream is slipping through her fingers fast. And for Robyn, That's hard to stomach. She's seeing the family she worked so desperately to keep whole falling apart, bit by bit. The autonomy now being asserted by the other wives might feel, to her, like an unbalancing of something holy. And even if she gets their motivations, it doesn't lessen the pain of the fact. This is a stark reminder. The Brown family is evolving. The shared dream of a compound is perhaps not entirely lost, but it's definitely no longer in the form it once was. A bigger shift, independence and boundaries come into focus. The choices Janelle, Meri, and Christine make are not merely about real estate, about power, identity, and self-evolution. All these years, these women sacrificed bits of themselves in the name of harmony. They accommodated, compromised, and sometimes put their own desires on hold. But times have changed now. They're making their voices heard. They're forging their lives on their own terms. Meri is opting for happiness and peace over duty. Janelle is demanding control over her destiny. Christine is establishing boundaries where none existed previously. All of them are redefining their place in the family, not to destroy it, but to finally show up for herself. And that makes this moment so crucial. It's a turning point, one that uncovers the truth. This family isn't one story. It's several individual stories, intertwined but no longer bound by a single thread. The shared compound dream may still exist in spirit, but in practice, it's evolving something different, something more flexible, something more real, where love does not demand proximity and support does not entail self-sacrifice. By buying land in the area, these women are constructing more than houses. They're constructing self-respect, confidence, and the ability to make choices. A new beginning. The relocation by Janelle, Meri, and Christine initiates a new page in the Brown family saga. It's not just about Kody's dream anymore. It's about each woman finding herself. While remaining bonded in some respects, they're also sending a message. They're not going to sacrifice themselves in the interest of family harmony. Sure, the notion of living all together had its appeal, but life, it's complicated. And this choice attests to that complexity, truthfully and responsibly. In the end, what we're seeing isn't the breakdown of a family, it's the growth of the individuals within it. Trouble at home. When Robyn's influence pushes others. Out of course, these shifts didn't come out of nowhere. Behind the scenes, tensions have been simmering, and for some, the tipping point was Robyn herself. In the most shocking move in the sister wives drama, Christine, Janelle, and Meri decided to leave the collective household. And why did they do it? A Robyn plot to kidnap them. It was a move that shook the family's foundation. Regular watchers recognized the emotional tides in the Brown family: loyalty, jealousy, love, betrayal. But something was different about this incident. It wasn't a disagreement. It was a shift in power. Now, let's get into what culminated into that incident and what it portends for Kody, Robyn, and the rest of the family. Understanding the Browns. The family behind the fallout. Before we get back to the emotional divide that shook the Brown family, let's revisit how this unorthodox household was formed and how it gradually started to fall apart. Kody Brown, the patriarch of the family, is a polygamist. He married 4 women in the course of time: Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn. Based on theory, the structure of their family rested on principles such as unity, shared values, and mutual support. But in practice, it was much more complicated. All of Kody's relationships with the wives have developed differently. Some were initially brimming with affection and bonding, but others grew apart over time. Meri, Kody's initial wife, has endured some of the most severe emotional setbacks. Their romantic relationship fizzled out years ago, and she finds herself stranded and in the way. Janelle, the second wife, has struggled as well, particularly once Kody's focus increasingly turned to Robyn. Christine has been the most vocal. Sister Wives viewers will recall her being brutally candid about her discontentment and the emotional strain of her relationship with Kody. Her openness resonated with a large number of viewers and became the show's most identifiable narrative. Then there's Robyn, the fourth and newest wife. From the start, her relationship with Kody was different, stronger, more intense, and that intensity didn't escape notice. Several family members and supporters have noted how Robyn appeared to take a preferred position in Kody's life. Whether by design or not, this favoritism gradually developed into a chasm. What was meant to be an even family structure tipped sideways. And with the passing of time, that tipping became increasingly difficult to disregard. As the years went by, Kody struggled more and more to keep the family intact. The vision of harmony in one home started to slip away, and then things came to a head. Christine, Janelle, and Meri decided to make the life-changing move away from the common home. And at the heart of their move, what they perceived as Robyn's manipulative power over the family. Robyn's role, the catalyst for the collapse. Robyn was a polarizing figure in the Brown family from the very beginning. Entering the family as the fourth wife, she had with her 4 children from a former marriage, children that Kody welcomed wholeheartedly as his own. That new chapter brought challenges, however. The other wives, who had invested decades in creating their own families with Kody, couldn't help but sense that something was changing in the household. Robyn soon became not only the new wife, but the wife, emotionally closest to Kody and possibly the most powerful. What hurt most was how apparent the imbalance was. Whether it was how things were split up, how the decisions were made, or even just how Kody's time and attention were allocated, Robyn seemed to be receiving the majority. Christine was particularly candid about how the favoritism injured her. She frequently complained about the tension it caused in her marriage, the feeling that her emotional needs were no longer being fulfilled, and the manner in which Kody's attentions had become diverted from their relationship. It made her feel abandoned. Janelle, typically the more taciturn and practical of the two, started to notice the same trend. Her sentiments and views didn't seem to hold the same priority any longer. She began to question her position in the family gradually, but inevitably. Meri, Christine, and Janelle. The breaking point for Meri, the oldest wife in the family. Things had also come to a breaking point. She had been with Kody right from the start, but gradually she was relegated to being more and more on the sidelines. As Robyn's position in the family became more and more central, Meri was shoved further and further into the background, emotionally as well as physically. What stung the most was not so much increasing distance from Kody. It was feeling replaced. It became increasingly difficult to overlook the way the family's emotional and financial energies appeared to be directed in a single direction, towards Robyn. The other wives weren't imagining things. They noticed how Robyn seemed to dictate many of Kody's choices, and the influence that came with that had true repercussions, choices that impacted everyone's lives and health. Finally, the stress became more than they could handle. Christine, Janelle, and Meri decided it was time to leave the common household. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't done in anger. It was after years of emotional pressure, seething resentment, and not feeling seen. Christine leaves, a self-worth move. Christine's move ranks as one of the most memorable and tearful moments in Sister Wives history. Christine, from the start, had been truthful about how much she was struggling. She discussed how much she felt disconnected from Kody, particularly as his focus began to shift toward Robyn. Her emotional needs weren't being fulfilled, and as time went on, she felt less like a wife and more like an afterthought. Even though Christine had been married to Kody for years and they had children together, she was always on the outside looking in. It was obvious that she had fallen behind on the emotional ladder in Kody's eyes. And when Robyn came into the picture, Christine felt all the more neglected. She started questioning if she could keep living in this manner, devoting love and energy into a relationship that was no longer returning anything. In time, Christine came to the hard but liberating choice of moving on. Her decision to leave wasn't about Kody alone. It was about choosing herself for the first time in a very long time. She needed emotional satisfaction. She needed liberation. And she knew that remaining in a relationship in which she felt unwanted would only bring more suffering. It was one of the toughest choices she ever made, but it was the right one. Janelle steps away, seeking balance and control. Janelle's choice to leave originated in a different place, but was no less powerful. Practical and even-tempered, Janelle was always the rock in the family. She never rocked the boat. She sought to make do. But even Janelle's quiet courage had its boundaries. As Robyn's control over Kody increased, Janelle found herself observing that her own voice had lost its authority. Her needs were being disregarded. Her opinions were being discredited. And Kody, having been emotionally present, was becoming increasingly distracted and remote. Janelle had played the good team player. She had worked diligently to hold it all together. But eventually, it became obvious that she was holding together a system that no longer held her up. Her choice to go was not about being angry. It was about self-respect. Janelle desired her independence returned. She desired to make choices for herself once more, without having to ask permission of Kody or endure the emotional disequilibrium brought on by Robyn's existence. Departure was her means of taking back her life. Having spent years compromising, she was prepared to finally prioritize herself. Janelle, Meri, and the final step toward freedom. Janelle's decision to walk away from the family was not an easy one. It wasn't solely about leaving Kody. It was about taking back her life in her own way. For years, she'd been living within the confines of a family